Hi guys, Ernie here and welcome to today's video. A couple of months ago there's been a great discussion about which bike should I get next for my road bike, and if you've been watching since, then you probably know that this became my choice. This is an S-Works Venge, size 49 in the battleship grey color, and I have to say I really love it. But many of you have been debating and discussing why did I get this bike in the first place, why not go with some other choices. So today I'm going to tell you a little bit more about that. So firstly, I got responses that this bike is too small for me, and for that I can only say let me be the judge of that, because this bike is not small for me and it fits perfectly. Admittedly the setup is quite extreme, but there's a very good reason for that. So going back to my track Medon that came with the H1 geometry, and it was a size 54, which is a huge discrepancy between the two, I have to admit. Of course I was looking first at the size 54 Venge, but as it turned out it had a lot more stack than the Medon, so that's nothing I really wanted. I was looking at the 52 then, which could have been perfect, but unfortunately no bike has been available in this size and in this color as a frame set. I couldn't get it in time and the road season was approaching, so I desperately needed a road bike. And then I was looking at the 49 also. It's the smallest size, so no real issues with the availability, or that's what I've thought. And I was looking at the geometry more, I was riding the look bikes a little bit, and then I decided and calculated a little bit that the 49 is going to fit just as fine. And the only real concern was the seat post, because the small frames come with a shorter seat post, and a couple of you guys have misunderstood me quite a lot, because last time I said that for my saddle height with the Berg saddle, which is quite flat and doesn't have much stack to it, I only have, well, I said I only have 15 millimeters of extra seat post in a frame, and some people said it's dangerous and you need to adhere to the minimum limit. When I say there's 15 millimeters of excess, I mean that the minimum is there and there's an additional 15 millimeters on top of the minimum, so it's more than safe with my 60 kilo-ish weight. So there was a bit of confusion regarding that, but don't worry, I'm not stupid enough to have 15 millimeters of seat post in the frame. So that wasn't an issue at all in the end. The resulting drop and position, as I said, quite extreme, not nearly as long as the Medon, it's around 25 millimeters shorter, but the drop is much greater, as you can see if we put the bike in the perspective also from the side. You can really see how low it is, and if I look at my ride data from this bike, I never really go under 38 kilometers per hour average in my training with this position, so I think it is really quite damn aero. Also thanks to the narrow NV handlebar, and of course to reach my position I have the 140mm NV aero stem in the 17-degree position. Okay, but that's about the sizing and why did I go for the 49. As for the other options, again I have to go back to my older track. I really like the Medon, it is an excellent all-around race bike. What I didn't really like and what started to annoy me at some races is the braking, namely because I had two wheel sets with different widths, so I had to adjust them all the time. And they weren't really strong and they required a bit of maintenance, constant readjustments. And if you're just riding regularly and at home and not racing and doing descent, that sort of stuff, it doesn't really annoy you, or when you don't have different wheel sets. But to me it was a bit annoying. So that's the first thing. I don't want to go with rim brakes. My only rim brake option would have been the Tarmac SL6, which is an excellent road bike. But then I got a buyer for my rim brake 5.6s, the MVs. So I no longer had a rim brake wheel set for a road bike. So no longer I've been tied to rim brakes. So I decided to go to disc. And if you look at the disc options, well, for rim brake I could have gotten the Madone SLR rim brake, but I wasn't really convinced that the braking would be much improved with the new brakes. The disc version of the SLR, oh well, I don't know. First, I don't really like the new SLR and how it looks. I think the Madone 9 looked nicer. Secondly, it's heavy. It's over 8 kilos even in a high-end build. And I'm not a weight weenie, but still, if you can have a 7 kilo aero bike or you can have an 8 kilo aero bike with the same aerodynamic performance, then obviously choose a 7 kilo aero bike like I have. And it also is very, very expensive, the new Madone. For me it would cost in the frame set alone an extra €1,000, which honestly didn't make sense to me. Also, I couldn't have used the MV stem, which I really like, so that also was a downside. So in the end it made me steer clear from the Madone. Then if you look at some other choices, Cannondale System 6, all of you have suggested. Again, it's expensive. I don't have good access to Cannondale, so I can't even get a good deal or good price. It's heavy, just like the Madone, and the looks, well, yeah, I don't really like those. Then a Giant, I'm sure it's a good bike, but it just didn't caught my attention, and I think that stem and bar system is hideous. And again, I couldn't have used my MV stem, which I already had. Going further, BMC, I don't know, super expensive, not so heavy as the previous two, but again, I don't have really good access to BMC. But even then, if you compare the retail price, is super expensive. Hard to get the frame set also, and I don't know, it doesn't really look like a good option to me. If you also consider value. What else is there really? Some other lightweight disc brake bikes, I don't know, I still wanted to go aero. So in the end, the Venge ticked all of my boxes. Firstly, what I consider, I already mentioned it, is light. I only like to have one road bike, and I want it to be aero, of course, but it also helps when it's quite light. And the bike, as you can see here, is weighing in at 7.1 kilos, which, if you consider the wheel set, which is the deepest MV78, if you consider that it has disc brakes and it's a full-on aero road bike, doesn't use any stupid light components, I think it's an excellent choice. Of course, it will be heavier with the 2x group set, but I will not really be using that because the hills we have are either short and steep or long and shallow. So, and a 50-33 is a pretty low gear, so for me it's just not a necessity. And also 7.1 is included the Wahoo element and its mount, all around a very good ways, I think. Also tubeless tires, super fast, so no issues here. It's really a great all-rounder. It's great in terms of handling. Of course, the braking is excellent, hydraulic disc brakes, no fault there, and really nothing really to fault it. Another thing that is really annoying me with the track bikes and frames is the BB90 bottom bracket standard, and I didn't really notice that until the new group sets came along, but now it's a bit of a inconvenience because it's the only frame standard where you can't fit the new dub crank, and you have to order the 24mm crank specially and then fit it the pometer additionally. Its cost, its complexity, and it's just not really what I wanted, so that would have been an extra complication. And it's also the reason why I'm selling the Boon frame sets now. And actually at one I have already sold. It's just annoying to not be able to use the dub crank because it's lighter, stiffer, nicer. The interface is very nice, the bearings are very nice, so yeah, it's just a hindrance in terms of VB90. Finally, there are some other smaller brand options or alternatives like the recently released Cube or the Simplon, or definitely some very interesting looking bikes, but in terms of aerodynamics, for the research and the testing you need a lot of resources, and for me it's fair to assume that the big brands will have more of these resources to put into that, so eventually the product will, in my opinion, be better and more refined. I forgot to mention the Cervelo S5. It's a bike that I really like, but again, I don't really have good access to it, so it also this practicality and financial perspective. For the Specialized I can get the good deal, and it's still lighter than a Cervelo. It's more simple. Again, the V-shaped cockpit rules out my preferences here in the front. So yeah, I think that's pretty much all the alternatives summed up and all the positives of this bike, so I can only recommend it so far. No real issues which would be attributed to the frame set or anything in that sense. If you want to see future updates about this build and how it's evolving, now it's reaching pretty much the final state, or in the ceramic speed oversized pulley wheel system will come when it's available later on this year. But other than that, it's finished. So yeah, that's all for today about my S-Works Venge. If you want to know more about other bikes that I use, build and service, then don't forget to tune into the channel and subscribe. Thanks for watching and see you next time.